Hey, what's up everybody? This is part 2 of my tier list ranking all of my custom action figures. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, go check it out after this. We are halfway through the list. Let's get started. First up is Black Doom. I know a lot of you have seen this. If you haven't, you gotta go check out the video. This was one of my biggest customs before Squid, and it uses a lot of new techniques that I didn't before. I airbrushed it, so that was a new thing for me, being able to put like nice gradients on everything. But ultimately, I still dry brushed a lot of it. As you can see, there's a lot of fabric and chains and things, so I had to figure out how to make a pattern of fabric and sew it together the way I wanted. I did something kind of clever where I put magnets inside between where the fabric would go, so it would get kind of sandwiched in between. I think that was a good idea. He has a lot of different ways to pose him. You can rotate the ball joints in his hands, and then the arms are lock line. It's like a rigid vacuum hose for machining to pull away extra bits of metal when you're working on something. And they worked perfect for articulation. I even did a stop motion with them, which, if you know stop motion, you should not be doing fabric as one of your first stop motion projects because it moves all around. But I was pretty happy with the result. I recreated Jet's Radical Highway parody video. And if you haven't seen that, really go watch it. It hasn't gotten a lot of views, and I would love for more people to see it because I put a ton of work into it. So this one is easily going to go up in S tier. One of my favorites, and I'm super proud of it. Movie Amy. This is by far the best performing video on my channel. You guys really like her. If you remember, the part 1 of that video actually came out the day after she was first leaked. That really grainy, blurry footage of somebody filming it in a theater. I actually sculpted that night right away to be right on the ball to get essentially a 3D model of that version. I think I came pretty close that night, and then I didn't work on it for a while. And then I updated it, and I'm really happy with my updates, and then I went through and made the whole thing. Again, you can see that video on my channel. It's one of the best. I went into really tough detail trying to get every line just right, get a nice perfect pink, and airbrush it so it's super smooth. Eventually, Bailey and I are going to update this so that she has her dress underneath. It'll be kind of a collab video. So look forward to that. And if you're not subscribed, maybe now's a good time to do so if you're interested in this content. I made the hammer in a much better way than previous hammers that I'd made, which were just way too heavy. For this one, I made it hollow in all separate pieces so it would print really nicely. And then I put a cake pop stick, a nice sturdy plastic stick, down the center instead of having a 3D printed one. And hopefully this will help it be less fragile. Eventually I'm going to do a stop motion with her, and I need to make movie Metal Sonic so I can do the stop motion of that end credits scene. I think that would be really cool. So obviously she is going in S tier. One of my best figures, and obviously one of y'all's favorites. She definitely belongs up here. Making this tier list video took so long that I finished other customs in between when I started this and when I'm ending it. And Sonic Heroes Rouge is one of those. I'm happy to say that she's completely done. In fact, the video is already out. Go check that out. And she was one of the earliest ones that I did a full body replacement, and it was super, super hard to get all the joints to fit in just quite perfectly right. I did a better job on white than usual. I got a new primer that I really liked, and then I primed everything a nice solid white before anything else. Some of my other figures, like if you watch my previous tier list video, I really don't like the white that I made on Fang. I've always just had trouble getting enough coats and making it solid. So starting with just this base white was really the way to go to keep a smooth surface. I have a lot of good details in this figure, and I did something kind of smart, I think, which is making it so that the magnet on the back kind of keeps it so that the wings don't break off if it hits something, hopefully, because the wings are pretty fragile. I'm really happy with the paint job. I have a lot of sharp lines, but it is just a little bit nerve-wracking the way that there's some thin parts, and I think I just really like the figure. I'm afraid of it breaking, so I just kind of have a little bit of nervousness having her on the shelf. A cool thing that I really like about this figure is that I put a joint in the middle of the boot. I got some hobby joints and made it so that they would fit right inside the boot and then have the top part covering over the knee. I didn't know if I was going to do this when I started out, but I really felt it was necessary, and I'm glad I went through the work to do that. I would put her in S tier. No, you know what? I will put her in S tier. The only thing I don't like about her is that she's just a little bit fragile, feeling at least, with the wings. She hasn't broken on me yet, but because I worry so much about that, I feel like it would kind of go lower on the tier, but I think I'm going to put it just low S tier for that reason. Oh, for those of you who watch the channel, you know how I feel about Cyclone. It's a cool idea in concept, being able to transform like it does, but the joints I could just never get right. Eventually I gave up and just left them kind of wobbly as they are and painted it up. And this would have been a D tier before I painted it, but I do really like the paint job. I still haven't printed out the decals yet because I gotta buy a new regular paper printer because it doesn't print blues anymore and it messes up the color. So once I do that, I'll be able to make the decals and then really finish it, but it's going to stay in C tier regardless of if I get those on or not. I am happy with the fact that I made a transparent viewport, and it does look really cool, especially in this shot with Squid. But as I mentioned, I'm going to put it in C tier. It's an upgrade of what I originally thought I'd put it in, which is D, only after I did the paint job that I like. Gosh, you know what I realized as I'm putting this tier list together and I'm moving the things around? I see this next to my Bonsai Bill, which is super simple. A Cyclone deserves better. I'm going to put it in B. Valiant Tails. He's a fun one. Not too complex, kind of a successor to some of the other armored ones like Shadow Lancelot and Dragon Hunter Lancelot. In fact, in a lot of ways, he's more similar to Dragon Hunter Lancelot because it isn't in the actual games. It's from Speed Battle and maybe some other games, I'm not sure, but he's kind of, you know, this tertiary design that didn't actually appear in a mainline game. And I think it's pretty cool, the way that his head snaps on the back and how it's one of the first times that I replaced the full body. I'm actually pretty happy with it. It's not the most amazing figure, but I'm happy I have it in my collection. I'm going to put it right up here in B. Super Trip is another one just like Cyclone that has gone on, and I never really quite got things right, nor was I inspired to work on it. This is an FDM print. It's not the same quality as a resin print, except for the head. For mine, I used resin, but the kits that I send out, those are FDM with a little bit lower detail. You know, the prints just aren't the best quality, and they kind of snap on. I still haven't finished painting it, to be honest. And even once I do paint it, I don't think it's going to look that great because Trip kind of has like a yellow and gold coloring that I think works in the game, but I don't think will look as good painted in real life. So I'm not super happy with the process of Super Trip so far, and I'm going to put it down in D tier. I love my Crawl Shell figure. Specifically, this is a haunted Crawl Shell, kind of in a ghostly, spooky sheep costume. This was inspired by Sonic Superstars. What I did was created a physics simulation of some cloth in Maya, and then I extruded that shape to be a little bit thicker, but I used that actual physics sim 3D model to actually make it so that it goes onto the figure really nicely. And even though it's simple, this is one of my favorites. I think it's really unique that I took a bunch of the extra round bouncers that I have and used those for the two sides of the shell. And I think it was just a really charming thing. A lot of you haven't seen this because it's part of the Halloween video that I just don't think people are that interested in the characters. But yeah, check this one out if you haven't already, because it is one of my favorites. It's gonna go up in A tier. Not quite S tier because, you know, it's not a Squid or an Amy or a Black Doom, but a respectable A. Speaking of Halloween figures, another one from that video was a Boo. And this is kind of a mix between a lot of different designs of the Boo that I liked. And it was one of the first things that I printed on my new FDM printer, so that I could do a lot bigger things than I can do in resin. And, you know, honestly, I really do like the design. It kind of sits in the middle of a few different designs, and kind of so-so. It's not my favorite, but it's right there. It's there. It's on my shelf. I like it. I'm gonna put it in C tier though. I love my Reaper Metal Sonic custom. He's so cool. A lot of you know that I don't really like Metal Sonic at all. I don't really like his design. I think he's too kind of spindly and fragile looking. But when I put the cape on him and the hooded head and give him the scythe, I just really love the design. It uses the staff design from what I made for a production of Into the Woods. I actually just scaled down the full-size prop that I sculpted and made it the staff, the wood part for the scythe. And I really love this figure. It's a shame because it didn't really sell well. It seemed like it would have been a slam dunk because I thought everybody liked Metal Sonic, but yeah, it wasn't really popular in that way, but it is popular in my heart. With the black light ink that I did and just the really detailed paint job that I had to get into all the corners, that was pretty hard. I'm going to give this one an A tier. This is an original character I created called Lava Leviathan. This was made almost 10 years ago now, I think, at this point. I 3D printed him on an old MakerBot, or maybe a Monoprice printer. Then I sanded him down real nice and then molded him so that I could cast a bunch of copies. That's how I used to do things when I didn't have very detailed printers. This particular example is cast in clear resin, then I light it from beneath, and everywhere that I kind of scratched away kind of this lava texture, it makes it look like it's glowing from the inside and it's really cool. I did a Ghostbusters video where I hand animated the proton streams and everything, and then I used this kind of as a puppet on a green screen, or I think just a black screen actually, so that I could composite it in kind of the same way that they did with Ghostbusters in the originals. And so I wanted to do everything kind of analog and in the style of how it used to be done. And so I have a lot of fond memories of this. This is an early figure of mine. But he doesn't do much, so he's probably just going to end up right here in B tier. So this is Mewtwo in a milk frother. I created this kind of Arduino-controlled LED fish tank bubbling display out of it. In fact, the original toy is just something I got at a garage sale. That's not the actual custom. That custom in this case is everything that's around him. This is one of the earliest videos on my channel, so scroll way back and check it out. Almost 10 years as well for this guy. And the footage that I captured it with is so bad, but you can get an idea kind of how I made it. I'm going to put this in C tier though, because it doesn't really do much, and I didn't actually create the figure that's inside of it. In fact, this is more of a diorama if anything else. So this one's pretty interesting. This is also a Mewtwo, and this is one that I created from scratch. I made this way back in 2009 in school. And I actually used them for some animations and things, and at that school we had a Z printer, which was actually a colored 3D printer that would lay down layers of this sort of powdery material, and then the ink itself was glue. Then you'd have to pull that out of there, put it in another machine right next to it, put your hands in gloves that were built into it. Kind of made me think of like a medical ET type thing. And then you would blow all of that extra powder off, and then you would have to cure it in this nasty, it was called CA for cyanoacrylate. It's basically like pure super glue. We'd have to dip it in and pour over the model, and it released crazy fumes, and it could hurt your eyes, and it would rip the gloves off as you were handling it. It was super hard to work with. And as you can see, this particular print that came out has the head messed up, and we never really reprinted it. It was just a test print. But I still have images of these around. In fact, at my parents' house, they still have it along with the X-Wing that I made in school. And so it's still kicking around and being displayed, but I'm going to put it in D tier because it's just not very good. Niffler! Okay, so this isn't necessarily a custom, but I built it for a Harry Potter wand to to use at Universal Studios. They have these little infrared cameras built into different displays that when you do different spells, it'll make things happen in the park. So I took a little reflector from the end of one of the ones that I purchased, and I made my own out of a dowel, and then I 3D printed the figure itself, and I think it came out pretty cool. I kind of whittled it down to look more like a rough wooden staff, and then I went in and I painted the galleon in the center, and then the whole idea of the sculpt was that this was sculpted or rather whittled out of wood, so I give a lot of these nice hard edges to it. And I think it's really charming, and I still enjoy using it when I go to the parks. As far as what tier it's going to be in, I'll put it in C tier. I have a lot of good memories of people complimenting me on it at the parks and having something unique and asking where I got it, and then I tell them about my channel and things. For those of you who have played Halo 3, specifically the co-op campaign, you'll know that there's 2 other characters along with the Arbiter and Master Chief for the other people to play as. I always thought that it was really cool that there were these 2 characters that didn't have much lore, at least that I knew at the time. Their names that I'm going to butcher are Ntho Saram and Uze Taham. I hope that's close to the right pronunciation. And I just always really liked these 2 characters' designs. These customs are pretty simple, especially the blue one. It's just a repaint of a regular Elite. And then the red one is all 3D modeled by me and printed. It's one of my kits. It's cool. I didn't use a good paint for it, so it still stays a little tacky to this day. My favorite picture of them is this one of all 4 of them in a warthog, and it's really cool. But you know, the characters themselves, as figures, customs, are not amazing. So I'm gonna put them in C tier. But yeah, I love them. Pretty cool. This is a really fun one. It's a Pokemon Halo crossover with a Spartan dressed up as if it was part of Team Rocket. I also made a Flood version of Weezing. So if you know the Pokemon Weezing, it's kind of like this 3-headed blob creature, 2 heads and an extra blob. And then if you know about the Flood, they're kind of these zombie-like amalgamations of body parts and things. And I actually 3D scanned my head and put it as part of the sculpt here as a little Easter egg. That was really fun. The little arms on the Flood figure are a bit fragile, so that makes it not fun to play with or display, but I'm not going to hold it that much against it. I'm going to put this up in A tier. I really like this figure. This is another Spartan custom. This is just a paint job. I painted it to look like Samus. Back at this time, I was doing some little animated things where I took assets of lightning and rain and things and composited them all together to make little scenes. For instance, I did this one for a character, I forget his name, from Dungeons & Dragons, the new movie. I love that movie. And I didn't do many of these, but yeah, the Samus one was one of the ones I did do, and I'm glad that I put that work into it. It was pretty cool. It's just a paint job, though. I'm going to put it in probably B tier. I like the paint job, but that's all it really is. Quivaloo put this image in the original tier list. It's a console, a Sega console that the characters can hold. But I didn't know if I really wanted to just call this a custom to rate. So I'm going to use this as a bucket for all of the sort of prop or environment stuff that kind of stands out to me that I have footage of. And hey, look at that. That's Mally messaging me on Discord. And everybody say what up to Mally too. Anyway, check out a lot of these props that I've made. I never really finished this guy. He's some form of Rotom. I actually don't know the story behind it. People on stream just asked me to make it, and I speed made it. I tried to make it in 15 minutes. Took slightly longer than that, but I got it done real quick on stream. Printed it out, and I've got it somewhere. I should paint it up. But I don't know the story about it. It's not actually a toilet. People call it a toilet Rotom. I think it's some kind of something to wash. I don't know what it is. But it is what it is. It's not done yet, so I'm just going to put it in C tier. I think it's cool. Funny. A little bit meme-like. Yeah, here it goes. This is actually a slot car, not a custom figure, but I thought it kind of was in the realm of things. I created this animatronic Wally back when I was working at Disney, but before I worked at Imagineering. And they had a slot car competition every year for a while, and it was pretty cool. Everybody came up with really neat designs. Of course, I didn't win the speed competitions because the ones that were actually built for speed were the ones that really did a good job. And I also don't think I won any from the design. There was also like a diorama setup. And I remember putting a lot of work into it. I made it interactive so that you could play with Wally and Eve in the background. It was a pretty fun project. And obviously it didn't animate the motion while it was as a car, because I had to put batteries on it and stuff. It was all just kind of moving on its own while plugged into the diorama. It was a fun time. As for rating it, I don't know. I'll give it a B. It was pretty cool. I made this custom grenade trap for Skylanders quite a few years ago. And I really liked this character, but he didn't have a figure, obviously, because he was part of Skylanders' trap team, where you trap the villains in these kind of generic crystals that have different types of shapes to them, but not the characters. So I thought it would be really cool if I could just cut the top off of one and make it usable as grenade. Technically, this will hold any file. I'm keeping that in. Fire Skylander. Yeah, but I like to keep just grenade in it, and it's pretty cool. And it's one of those things that kept getting a lot of views over the years, and it prompted me to make more. Which brings me to... Oh wait, I can't say that yet. I gotta rate it. It's a C. It's not the most advanced model. It's not the most greatest paint job, but I like it. And now that brings me to... Broccoli Guy was my attempt to capitalize on the fact that I was getting a lot of views on my Grenade Skylanders video, and people kept asking for more. And, you know, it wasn't successful as that one, but I really liked it, and it did lead me to make more. This has a much better paint job than Grenade, and it has better quality as far as prints go. Because back then I was using an FDM printer, now I have resin. And I made this guy kind of in the ballpark of what I thought it would be compared to Grenade. And you'll see in future ones that the more I went making the sizes relative, the bigger they got, which was a lot of fun. Broccoli Guy isn't my favorite, but he is better than Grenade. Is that enough to move him up to B tier? No, I'm gonna keep him at C tier along with Grenade, but he's the upper C tier. He's at least better than Grenade. Chill Bill got pretty big. Once I decided to make him, I realized that if I wanted to make him in scale with the other Skylanders, it was gonna have to be pretty heavy. He is unwieldy, but he is really cool. I'm very happy with the paint job I gave him. I really put a lot of detail into it and a lot of care and attention. And it's definitely going to go above C tier. I'm going to put it in B tier. Rage Mage actually shared some of the same geometry as Broccoli Guy because he has kind of a similar face and body structure. So I took parts of that for this and gave him a cool staff that I really tried hard to get a lot of good texture in, and I'm happy that it turned out that way once I printed it. I'm really happy with the paint job on this guy, especially the dry brushing on all the details. It looks really, really good. This one's also going to go up in B tier. But this is when things start going downhill. So many people wanted more Skylanders, but less and less people were watching. You'll see that as a trend. Each next one that I made just kind of got less and less views. It was pretty tough. By the last one, Chomp Chest, nobody was really watching them. I would like to make more, but I just can't get the eyes on the work and how much work goes into it. It's just too much. I really like this one though, so it's gonna go in B tier. Bone Chompy's a cool figure. He has a lot of nice detail in him. I built out all these bones to kind of have like a lot of nice gaps, and the wash took really well to it, getting inside all the cracks and everything. He's a little bit fragile. I'm afraid of him breaking a little bit, and so that's a little bit uncomfortable when I'm trying to keep it safe. And he's just not all that advanced. He's not like the Chill Bill or the Rage Mage as far as detail goes. So he's going to be another Skylander that goes down in C. Chomp Chest is the most recent Skylander I made, and possibly the last. Unfortunately, it just doesn't seem like there's a lot of interest in Skylanders. I know there's a vocal group of you that really like them, but unfortunately it doesn't seem like there's a lot of traction for them, which is a shame. So many people have just skipped out on this video, but there's a lot of cool things about it. I gave them hinges, and I put a lot of detail into the wood design and everything. It's not the best paint job. I think it's a little bit messy. I think I could have done a little bit better if I could go back to it, which I can, but I don't imagine I will. It was fun that I made the little hot dogs for it, because the character eats hot dogs for some reason. I don't know. I like the hinge. I don't like the paint job that much. I think I'm going to put it in C tier as well. I don't think it's quite a B tier one. This is another one that's not exactly a custom, but Hoovaloo put it in the tier list, so I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll let this represent all of my theater props. I haven't made a ton. The three that I'm going to talk about here are all from Into the Woods. So instead of having like a wolf costume or a wolf mask and things like people often do, we had the wolf be a mounted head that could be performed by the actor. Same thing with Milky White. Usually Milky White's kind of like a statue that rolls on the stage, or it's just a person with a cowbell. The running joke with Into the Woods is that you kind of always do something silly or stupid with Milky White, and it's a big hit in the show. And it was definitely a big hit in this show. People really liked it. And lastly, I also did the witch's staff. I should say the wolf and the cow were actually models that I downloaded, and then I sliced them apart and figured out how to make them fit together, but I didn't actually do the original sculpts. Well, the witch's staff, the wood part, I sculpted in ZBrush and split it into many, many parts, and then printed in such a way that they would fit around a dowel for structure. And then inside of the top of it, I put a miniature smoke machine that could be triggered from off stage. And it was really, really cool. I also put lighting in there so that the smoke would light up a little bit, and it looked fantastic on stage. Since this isn't relevant, I'm just going to give it a neutral score of C tier. I think they're amazing. They could be A or S tier as far as quality goes, because they're some of the favorite things I've made as far as props go. But since they're not really customs, I'm not going to put them up there. I love my Porygon figures. They're so cool. This is a reference to Pokemon Snap, the original game. There was a point in the game where you would find them camouflaged in the wall in one of the levels, and then you'd lure them out, and you would see these two versions of them. And if you hit them with something, either an apple or the smoke bomb, you would make them no longer be camouflaged. So this is a reference to that. I use flocking, and I use train ballast with glue to get the surface all rough, and it was a lot of fun. This was featured in my Pewter City video. If you guys haven't seen it, they are videos where I go to every real-world Pokemon city. This is like, I'm talking about the exact kind of location, not exact, but general location, and also the theme of the towns and things. And it was a really fun series that I've only finished 7 videos of, and I have like 20-something to finish editing. But yeah, go check those out if you haven't. That's what this is from. I like these a lot. Even though they're simple, I'm going to put them in B tier, just because I really like the techniques that I used on them. This is a funny little one-off. There was a competition by Serdork, a pretty cool, well-known toy photographer, where he has a different theme every month. and then you submit an image for that theme. Well, he was getting married, so the theme that month was wedding, and so I thought it would be cool, what if it was the stacked Goombas from Mario Odyssey? So I made the hat that the girl Goomba has from the game, and then I gave the Goombas a top hat, like they were fancy getting married, and then Bailey and I went out to the park and shot this shot. As a custom goes, it's very simple. It's just a hat, a couple hats that I made. If I were judging the image, A tier. I love it. It was so fun to shoot this. But as a figure goes, I'm probably going to put it down in B tier, maybe even C tier, but B tier because I have a lot of fond memories of it. Here's another Pokemon one. This is Tabon. It's from the leaked beta of Gold and Silver. Basically, the idea was it was a Shellder or another Pokemon, I don't know, that was attached to a Slowbro. If you remember, when Slowpoke evolves, it becomes a Slowbro because a Shellder bit its tail, but then the Shellder doesn't look anything like a Shellder. So the idea, I guess, was that this was what was actually on the tail, a Tabon. It was one of my first customs in recent years. I made some a long time ago, but then when I actually got into remaking customs again, it was one of the first of that batch, and I have a lot of fond memories of it. I took it to Japan and shot pictures with it. I'm going to give it a B tier. There's not much to it, but I just really love that I feel like I captured the design well. So this custom is fully animated, sort of. It's an animatronic figure of Togepi. This one's really cool because I 3D printed a lot of the mechanisms and everything's kind of self-enclosed inside of the shell. But to create the skin parts of the head, I created a clay sculpture of it and then made a mold of that so that I can actually cast it in silicone and then let that be kind of a silicone soft surface on top of the moving joints. Now, a lot of the joints didn't work in the end. I mostly just got a head tilt and a head turn, and then the arms moving. But it was a fun project to work on. This is one of the first videos on my channel, and you can see a very young me working on it. I took it to a convention and interacted with people, and it was pretty cool. I still have it somewhere. It's not on display anymore. It's in a box in storage. But I really want to bring it out and display it somewhere. As far as it goes on the tier list, I'm going to put it as a B because I put a lot of work into it. Even though all the functions didn't necessarily work once I got the skin on, it's still, I think it's a pretty impressive product. This is another original figure, Time Travel T-Rex, a mix between a robot and a dinosaur. And this was actually created by my friend Miguel. We worked together on a prototype for a game that was all about rewinding time and solving puzzles, kind of like a few games I can't remember the names of. But what was special about this was I was trying to do it as efficiently as possible, such that it would run really well on mobile. That was the exercise here, and if I may say so myself, it did run fairly well. Well, anyway, we decided just as an added bonus to do some RFID stuff with it, which we never actually did the RFID. We just created swappable parts so you could have different colors of the top and bottom of the dinosaur. And we were inspired by Skylanders Swap Force, but we didn't really do anything with that idea. It was just an extra bonus to this prototype we made. And it was a fun thing to work on. I'm going to put it at B tier because it's a lot of the impressive work came from the game, and so I'm going to wrap that in with this. There's a line of Pokemon toys called Pokemon Scale World. Basically, the idea is that all the trainers are a certain size, and then every Pokemon is scaled to that. For instance, a Togepi would be tiny, while a Wailord, which I started a custom of 1 or 2 years ago and never finished, I'll finish that soon, would be way, way big. And I really love the idea of these sizes being accurate. One of the things that they don't make is Wes from Pokemon Colosseum, so I decided to make one myself. It was based on the original model, but it took a lot of work to create actual defined parts where instead of using texture, I would use actual 3D models to make it come out in the print. And I'm pretty happy with it. Overall, I think it's a pretty good paint job. I like the work that I did on it. He doesn't really do anything though. I'm stuck between B and a C. You know what? I'm gonna put him in B. I feel like I'm being a little bit generous, and if I was gonna go back and redo these, there'd be some shifting around. Like I think earlier there were some C's that might have deserved B's, but that's just how I'm feeling in this moment. Halo is actually how I got my start on Etsy selling customs, and the Brute Thrall Slayer from Halo Wars was one of my most popular products. There was a lot of different pieces that you would glue onto it, and then you would just replace, not even replace the head, this would just slide on top. And I did a lot of sculpting work on this, and all the 3D models are completely my own design. Or I shouldn't say design because the original is already designed, but my 3D modeling from scratch instead of taking game models. So I'm really proud of this one. I think this one's definitely going up in A tier. I really like the paint job that I did with it, and I think it's a really good kit to print and be able to sell, and I know some people have made some really cool stuff with it. This is my Halo Elite Ranger kit. It's based on the Ranger harness from Halo. And it's a pretty cool design. Again, all these older Halo stuff I fully made from scratch instead of taking 3D models. I'm always a little more attached to them for that reason. It's really cool to have a figure with a jetpack. And I also use this jetpack for the Heretic Elites that you saw me rate in the previous video. The Ranger helmet isn't my favorite. The way it slopes back and stuff is not my favorite design. And it's pretty cool though. I'm going to put it in B tier. You know, earlier I was speaking about some C's deserving B's. I think one of the ones that deserves to be up here with the Ranger is the pink one, whose name I've already forgotten. I looked it up for earlier in the video. I already forgot the pronunciation. So I'm just going to move this guy up along with the Ranger. This is one of my favorite toy photos that I've ever done. Not because it's particularly complex, but just because of the amount of work that I put into it. I found this illustration by Storyboard Ben. I reached out to him to ask if I could make a toy shot of it. He said absolutely. What I did was I sculpted a space gopher in ZBrush, and then I posed him in the different poses of all the different seasons from the illustration. Then I even printed out a little Master Chief toy for the one image, and I painted all of them as separate prints, but in the same colors, and then I remade the 4 panels of these 4 seasons on Halo. I really like the different fauna and characters, the creatures that aren't necessarily the Covenant in Halo. And so this was a really fun one. I was stoked to do it. And all that extra work that I put in to pose it in 4 different ways and then paint them all the same way is just makes this one of my favorites, even though it's so simple. It's going to go in A tier for sure. This is another one that Hoovaloo requested. It's Gemerald from Sonic, and he had the idea of taking a Mega Man figure and putting parts on it to mod it. Originally I had made a full design that was supposed to go together with baling wire and cake pop sticks, and it just didn't really work well, so I kind of shelved the project until Hoovaloo suggested that I try this, and sure enough it worked great. I think Mega Man is a great body with a lot of articulation that works really well for Gemerald. I did a good job of dyeing the pieces from blue to black, so normally I think this is almost an A tier, but just because it felt a little bit messy and the head doesn't turn well, it's gonna get bumped down to B tier, but it's definitely one of my favorites in B tier. Let's maybe move it right up to the top of B tier, so almost A tier. I really like my Womp figure from the Super Mario series because I want to have more variety in what I do. I keep making a lot of Sonic stuff, but I want to spread things out a bit more. And I don't expect Womp to be particularly popular, but I really like the sculpt that I did for him. Trying to get all the stone texture to come out in the 3D print, specifically an FDM print which has less detail. I feel like it all came out really well and took to the dry brushing pretty good. He has the same joints as Cyclone, but in this case they work a bit better because they're not holding up any weight. Pretty simple. I'm going to put him in B tier because I really like the sculpt that I did on him, but he's pretty simple otherwise. I love my Mephiles minions. They're so cool. You can't really pose them. They're just statues. They're a little fragile. But I just love the sculpt that I did for them. I play Sonic Speed Battles with Mephiles as my main, and I just love sending those guys off to stop people from using attacks against me. And I just knew I had to make them once I started using them. I took an awesome toy photo with them using this green smoke bomb from a fireworks stand. And I did this live on stream too. I both filmed it outside streaming and then came inside and edited on a separate stream, but both right adjacent to each other. It was fun to show you guys the whole process of toy photography, which I don't get to do a lot nowadays. Again, these are just statues, so that's going to knock them down a rank or two. I'm going to put them at B tier. So these last three are actually things that I finished, or mostly finished, while working on this video, which just shows how long this video took to edit. Although I would have edited faster if I wasn't making other projects in between. I was also doing custom orders and things, but you know, it's great that I get to add him to this list. So this is Zavok. I haven't painted him yet, but he is solid enough to show in this tier list video. And in the time since I recorded that audio, I have also finished painting Zavok. That is how long this video is taking. This is kind of a triumph for me because I've always had a terrible time with joints. The 3 types of joints in this guy all worked perfectly in their test prints the first time. And so I'm super happy to show you guys this. It's going to be a kit on sale very soon. And I am super happy. He scales with the 4-inch figures. He's about 6 inches tall. And I'm just super happy with him. He's going up in S tier. Recently, I've been doing a lot of clear blue stuff because I bought a new printer. The Saturn 4K Ultra 16K or something. It's a long name. Anyway, it has a smaller vat, which means I can use other materials like this clear blue resin. And I figured this was perfect for things like chaos and artificial chaos. Now this guy is a big blob of resin. I didn't make him hollow because I specifically want that refraction to stay, and I cut out the center of it with those little, I don't know what it is, the mechanical pieces that go into the water, left open so that I could pour silver paint into it and let that mechanism show through in the clear resin. It's super cool and very simple. I didn't need to paint much of it other than painting the surface of the head silver. I don't know, I might do some additional weathering or something to it. I don't know, because it now looks a little plain with just silver paint, but I'm really happy with it. I'm gonna put this all the way in, I keep saying B or A. I think A for this guy, just because I really like what I did with it. And lastly, I'm almost done with this guy, but not quite, but enough that I'm gonna put him here in this tier list. I lied again, he's done. And he is really cool. It is Chaos 2. I built this in such a way similar to what I just described with Artificial Chaos, where I left the center able to have paint. This is a lot more complex. I took all the bone structure and cut it out and let paint seep into it, and then I covered the holes with more resin. Now this was pretty cool. The software required me to put supports in it. I don't know if that was necessary, but I did put the supports in those hollow areas. And what that did was it actually gave a little bit of texture to those bone areas because they're supposed to have kind of a dark line pattern to it. There was no way I'd be able to do that by just pouring the paint in. So by having these support structures in it, it actually gave a little detail that really helped with it. Clear resin comes out kind of cloudy, but when I put this clear protective gloss sealant on it, it looks really cool. See how it looks on Artificial Chaos? I cannot wait to see Chaos 2 with the sealant on it, but you'll have to wait for that video to come out. This is Future Corey again. Obviously, you are seeing it clear. Woohoo! But still watch that video when it comes out. Anyway, Chaos 2 is going up in S tier for sure. I want to do some reorganizing here. I did this tier list over multiple days, in fact, multiple weeks. So I kind of had different opinions of things as I went, and then some things got scored lower early on, but I started scoring similar things higher later on. So I want to just shift a few things around. First of all, I got Gemerald wrong. I meant to put that at the top of B. Next, as I look at what I rated things, I just really love the paint job on my gun beetle. I kind of want to move it up to A, and I will, because I really like the paint job on it. I don't think Bark Shark belongs in A anymore. I'm going to put it down with Stegosaurus. I feel like Luigi deserves better than this, so I'm going to put Luigi up a little higher. I think it's kind of on par with the Womp and some of the paint jobs I did on some of these simpler objects. I think that's about all the adjustments that I want to do here. However, I want to do one more thing, which is organize my S tiers into what I really think is the best one. I'm going to start with this side. Do I think Chaos is better than Zavok? As clever as it is, I don't think so. I think having these joints was such a triumph that it beats these relatively simple joints and the cool things that I did on Chaos too. Do I think Zavok is better than Rouge? It's hard to say because I love the paint job on Rouge, but again, I'm so happy about those joints. I'll put it a little higher. How about Movie Amy? Do you think Movie Amy is a stronger figure? So I'm going to keep Movie Amy above Zavok. No! Look how much articulation I put in. No, that Zavok's going higher. But Zavok does not beat Black Doom. Alright, so let's look at Rouge. Is Rouge higher than Amy? I'm actually going to say yes because I put a lot more work into her. No, I put more work into Amy actually because I really worked to get that face sculpt right. So even though I made more pieces on Rouge, her base is still from that game model, so Amy's going to beat her out. Let's look at Black Doom. Is Black Doom better than the Shadow Wings? The Doom Wings? I'm going to say yes. I have a certain affinity for the Doom Wings, but I think Black Doom beats it. Let's look at Black Doom now. Or excuse me, Black Doom against Big, and definitely beats Big. Does it beat Squid? Oh, it's hard to say. Squid is just so big and cool. I put so much work into it. I think I'm happier that I made Squid, but it's so unwieldy. I think Black Doom is a better one to like just have around and be less of a hassle. So I'm going to say it beats that. And I'm also going to say Black Doom definitely beats Shadow Lancelot. Now it seems like I'm kind of going in a weird order, but you'll see the logic as I go. So I've already decided on this, and this. Shadow Wings are going to be less than Zavok. I think Zavok has a lot more work put into him than the Shadow Wings, as much as I like them. Big, again, Big's really only up here because of Froggy, so they're going to go down a little bit. All the way down. I think they're going to be the lowest in S tier, actually, just because as much as I love the Froggy sculpt and the paint job, it doesn't beat the rest of these S tiers. And the last one I haven't judged yet is Shadow Lancelot. I love this figure because it was one of the first that put me on the map, but it's not better than Squid. It's not better than Zavok. I like the Doom Wings more, and I think I like it more than Amy. So here's the order of the S tier. Black Doom leading the way, followed by Squid, and all the way down to the Big and Froggy. I think this is a great ordering of the S tiers. Let me know what you think. And by the way, some of you did let me know what you think, albeit before I added ones like Rouge or Chaos 2 and things like that. But here's what you guys chose as your tier list. Check it out. Whew, I am exhausted from this video, and if you've watched all of it, you're probably exhausted too. So I'm gonna do something a little bit different. I'm not gonna set things up. I'm just gonna do a quick spin around and grab one Patreon member at a time. Oh, who's this? Tomato is JP. Thank you very much. Hoovaloo's subscription ended, the one that was gifted by Choppus. Well, let's get Hoovaloo in here again. I'm spinning too fast. We got a YBZ. Thank you very much. Choppus. Whoa. Choppus. Going too fast. Kurotsuchi. War article. Pro Tyler's back here. Hold on. Where's this thing? Pro Tyler, here we go. Pro Tyler. Oh no, I dropped Pro Tyler's thing. Oh no, Tails fell out. I thought I could do this in a much smoother way. Yeah, I'm just gonna do one spin with nobody. Oh, here's Tails again. Oh, where's my other one? Cyberemic Puppy. Jay Starfield. Where's Jay Starfield's figure? Oh, right here. Oh my gosh, this did not work out as easily as I thought it would. Jay Starfield. Is that right? Yeah, it's flipped in my video. Is there anybody else? Let's see. We got Tomatoes JP. Yes, that is all current members. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. See you in the next video.